their full potential. That rebalance is an investment in the region's future. It will help unlock the Asia-Pacific's tremendous promise and build a brighter future. And that's good for the United States. For example, the United States wants to reinforce the open and inclusive economic approach that we all know can continue to benefit the region. That's why one of the most important non-military initiatives of the rebalance is the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, which will bind the United States more closely together with 11 other economies, guarantee a high quality, high standard trade system, and support more U.S. exports and higher paying American jobs. For those reasons and its strategic value, TPP is an opportunity the region and the United States cannot afford to miss. Unfortunately, challenges always accompany opportunities in times of change, and today in the Asia-Pacific there are a number of security challenges, including North Korea, which, with its nuclear saber rattling, continues to threaten our allies and heighten tensions in the region. There are also challenges to the shared principles we've long upheld. For example, maritime concerns in the East and South China Sea, the Indian Ocean, and elsewhere pose a risk to the region's prosperous future. Terrorism and other transnational threats spare no region of the globe. As we support these principles, the United States will continue to stand with our allies and partners, and we will, as we have demonstrated and as we will continue to demonstrate, fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows. And with the military component of the rebalance, the United States will help the region to meet these challenges and to remain the primary mainstay of security in the Asia-Pacific. The men and women of the Defense Department, including all of you, have pursued each phase of the rebalance with strength, commitment, and inclusion. In the first phase, beginning 5 years ago, DoD quantitatively and geographically enhanced the U.S. military force posture in this vast region. After years of emphasis on counterterrorism and wars in the Middle East, which we needed to pay attention to, and in light of the regional changes since the end of the Cold War, we made a choice to strengthen our posture in the Asia-Pacific, to make it more robust, as well as more geographically distributed, more operationally resilient, and politically sustainable in the region. That's why DoD sent tens of thousands of additional American personnel to the region. That's why we committed to home porting 60% of our naval and overseas air assets in the Asia-Pacific by 2020. That's why we began to modernize our footprint in Japan and in the Republic of Korea. And that's why we began to realign our Marines from a highly centralized presence in Okinawa, Japan, to additional locations in Australia, Hawaii, and Guam, the latter serving as a strategic hub. In the second phase of the rebalance, which we launched last year, we've made qualitative improvements to our force posture, upgrading our own military capabilities, while at the same time also modernizing and advancing our defense relationships to reflect regional change and new opportunities. The second phase is force posture improvements, including sending our best people, including sailors like you, and assigning our most advanced capabilities to the Asia-Pacific, including the F-22 and F-35 stealth fighter jets, P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, continuous deployments of strategic bombers, and our newest surface warfare vessels, including all of our newest stealth destroyers, the DDG-1000. We also continued making strategic and substantial investments in new capabilities critical to the rebalance, like not only growing the overall number of surface ships, but also making each of them much more lethal, and investing more in Virginia-class submarines and in areas like cyber. And we developed new and innovative strategies and operational concepts, which we put to use in more complex and expansive training exercises, both on our own and with our allies and partners, none larger than this summer's REMPAC. Also in the second phase, we sought to modernize America's relationships with militaries across the region. These are ties that have been nurtured over decades, tested in crisis, and built on shared interests, values, and sacrifice, but they also need to evolve to reflect growing capabilities, new national aspirations, and changing security needs. You can see the breadth and depth of this modernization starting with our allies. The U.S.-Japan alliance, to begin with, remains the cornerstone of Asia-Pacific security. And with our new defense guidelines, the U.S.-Japan alliance has never been stronger or more capable of contributing to security in the region and beyond. Our alliance with the Republic of Korea also continues to evolve to assure deterrence on the Korean Peninsula, including through the joint decision earlier this year to deploy the THAAD ballistic missile defense system to the Republic of Korea to help defend against North Korean threats there. The alliance is more and more a global one. As our two nations partner together across the Asia-Pacific, we're also together accelerating the defeat of ISIL in Iraq and Syria. Our long-standing alliance with Thailand goes back to the 19th century, continues to benefit both countries and contribute to regional security. And as it has been for decades, our alliance with the Philippines is ironclad. And through the landmark Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, the United States is supporting the modernization of the Philippine Armed Forces. Next, America's regional partnerships are growing in number and strength. The U.S.-India military relationship is the closest it's ever been. Great nation, large democracy. Through our strategic handshake, with America's reaching west in our rebalance, and India reaching east in what Prime Minister Modi calls his Act East policy, our two nations are exercising together by air, land, and sea. Never did that before. And there's also a technological handshake between the United States and India. The U.S.-India Defense Technology and Trade Initiative grasps hands with Prime Minister Modi's Make in India campaign, helping our countries move toward more diverse defense co-development and co-production of weapons systems. Meanwhile, the U.S.-Singapore relationship continues to grow, with Singapore hosting of American littoral combat ships and P-8 maritime patrol aircraft. The U.S.-Vietnam partnership has also been dramatically strengthened. The United States lifted the ban on lethal weapons sales to Vietnam recently to provide Vietnam greater access to the military equipment it needs and wants. And in fact, today, as we speak right here, the USS John McCain, named after Senator John McCain, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, is visiting Vietnam. And I spoke with Senator McCain yesterday about the historical significance of this visit. And notably, the American and New Zealand militaries have taken an important step forward, as later this fall the U.S. Navy destroyer will make the first American port call in New Zealand in 30 years. And in the second phase, we also started to connect and network these allies and partners together. A good example of that is the Maritime Security Initiative, which we launched last year. It represents an initial $425 million 5-year American commitment to enable regional maritime security network in Southeast Asia. More than simply providing hardware, this initiative helps the United States enable the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand to connect and to work with one another and us, so that they can all see more, share more, and do more to ensure maritime security throughout the vital waters of Southeast Asia. Now, given our inclusive approach, DoD is also taking steps to modernize our military-to-military relationship with China. In recent years, we've strengthened communications between our two militaries and reduced the risk of miscalculations that could lead to crises. We've recently concluded 2 confidence-building measures, one on maritime rules of behavior and another on crisis communications. We also regularly participate together in multilateral exercises such as RIMPAC that demonstrate the value of working together to address security issues. And our two militaries also hold regular dialogues and high-level consultations that seek to minimize misunderstanding. Now, the United States still has serious concerns with some of China's recent actions on the seas, in cyberspace, and elsewhere. Beijing sometimes appears to want to pick and choose which principles it wants to benefit from and which it prefers to try to undercut. For example, the universal right to freedom of navigation that allows China's ships and aircraft to transit safely and peacefully is the same right that Beijing criticizes other countries for exercising in the region. But principles are not like that. They apply to everyone and to every nation equally. As President Obama has said, the U.S.-China relationship will have elements of cooperation, but also competition. We hope that China chooses to join the rest of the region in strengthening and upholding the shared principles that have helped so many nations around the region, including China, to rise and to prosper. Now, in the third phase of the rebalance, we're going to cement the progress we've made in the first and second phases and build upon it. First, by continuing to qualitatively upgrade and invest in our regional force posture with sustained and strategic investments I'll describe in a moment. And second, by catalyzing the Asia-Pacific's principled and inclusive security network even more. In this next phase, the United States will continue to sharpen our military edge so we remain the most powerful military in the region and the security partner of choice. We're already sending our best people and platforms into the region. And in the rebalance's third phase, we'll increase and target investments to ensure that they and all of you stay the best. Here are some of the path-breaking and high-tech improvements we're making beginning in this budget this year. We're going to make more of our Virginia-class submarines more lethal and more capable by tripling their Tomahawk cruise missile strike capability with the Virginia payload module. We're increasing funding for undersea drones in multiple sizes and diverse payloads that can operate more effectively in shallow waters where manned subs cannot. These are part of more than $40 billion we're investing over the next 5 years to ensure we continue to have the most lethal undersea and anti-submarine warfare force in the world. We're ensuring our continued air superiority and global reach, including with over $12 billion over the next 5 years for the new B-21 Raider long-range strike bomber. We're investing more than $56 billion over the next 5 years to buy, during this period alone, more than 500 of the stealthy 5th generation F-35 Joint Strike Fighters, including more for the Navy and more for the Marine Corps, while also improving avionics, radar, and electronic warfare systems on legacy bomber and fighter aircraft. We're upgrading our aerial tanker fleet, investing almost $16 billion over the next 5 years in the KC-46A Pegasus tanker to help shrink the Asia-Pacific's vast distances. We're repurposing the SM-6 missile so that it can also strike enemy ships at sea at very long ranges. We're investing in other advanced munitions to improve range and accuracy for land attack and anti-ship missiles, some new torpedoes, as well as some very creative and, we're sure, unexpected by potential foes, ways to use such missiles across the varied domains of the Asia-Pacific. And we're also making large new investments in cyber, in electronic warfare, and space capabilities, a total of $34 billion just next year. And we're going to have a few more surprises as well. These leap-ahead investments will keep us ahead in the Asia-Pacific and elsewhere. Now, I can't share all the details on these for obvious reasons, but what our friends and our potential adversaries and all of you should know is that these new capabilities will help keep our decades-old commitment to undergirding security in the Asia-Pacific strong and unchallengeable. These advances may change how we operate, and they will, but will never change why we do so. For the security of our people, our friends and allies, and for the principles that have benefited so many in the region for so long. Now, as we make these investments in our military edge, we'll also catalyze